Are you working 18 hours a day only to see your bank account stand still while others work half as much and get rich twice as fast? Welcome to Gentle Mind Shift. Today we will uncover this harsh truth through the powerful story of two masterful tailors in ancient India. Ramu and Somu both possessed world-class sewing skills, but Ramu believed that endless hustling and sacrificing his health was the only path to a fortune, while Somu chose a different path, proving that leveraging the right tools and strategy will always outrun raw, exhausting labor. Somu believed that while effort was necessary, planning and using the right tools would yield far better results over time. The villagers often watched them work, curious to see which tailor would ultimately build a more prosperous and sustainable business. Our story begins during a hot summer, when the demand for beautiful hand-stitched clothing reached an all-time high in town. Ramu immediately opened his shop earlier than anyone else, determined to outwork every single competitor in the entire local marketplace. Somu decided to start his day a bit later, using his morning hours to plan his schedule and organize his tasks. This fundamental difference in their daily routines would soon set them on two completely opposite paths toward their ultimate goals. Ramu worked 18 hours every single day, barely taking a break to eat or drink under his dim oil lamp. His fingers were constantly bleeding from accidental needle pricks, but he wore his injuries like badges of true honor. He took every single customer order that came his way without considering if he had the actual capacity to finish. Ramu believed that saying no to any customer meant losing money and showing a complete lack of dedication and grit. He cut each piece of fabric individually, using old, heavy scissors that made his hands ache with intense daily pain. His shop was cluttered with messy piles of unfinished garments, creating a chaotic environment that slowed down his sewing speed. Ramu refused to hire any help because he believed that paying someone else would only reduce his personal business profits. He slowly grew more tired each day, but forced his exhausted body to keep pushing past its healthy physical limits. His customers started to notice that his sewing lines were becoming crooked and his once perfect stitches were looking sloppy. Yet Ramu remained stubborn, believing that working even harder and sleeping less would eventually fix all of his growing problems. Meanwhile, Somu focused on optimizing his workspace and researching new methods to make his tailoring process much faster and easier. Instead of immediately cutting fabric, Somu spent his first hour every morning designing efficient patterns and organizing his materials. He invested a significant portion of his early savings into buying a modern, high-speed sewing machine that worked flawlessly. He also hired an eager young apprentice to handle basic tasks like cleaning, measuring, and prepping fabric for the day. This allowed Somu to focus entirely on the highly skilled aspects of tailoring, ensuring that his quality remained absolutely perfect. To save precious hours, Somu learned a clever technique to layer 10 sheets of fabric and cut them simultaneously together. This simple adjustment meant he could produce 10 identical garments in the time it took Ramu to make just one. Somu always maintained a clean and highly organized workshop, where every tool had its own specific and logical storage place. He slept 8 hours every night, ensuring his mind was sharp and his body was fully energized for the day. His customers were consistently amazed by his incredibly fast delivery times and the flawless quality of his beautifully tailored clothes. One day, a wealthy merchant from the royal palace arrived in the village marketplace with an incredibly massive business opportunity. The merchant needed 500 royal garments stitched to absolute perfection within a very tight deadline of just 2 weeks. This massive contract promised enough gold to secure a comfortable life for any tailor who could successfully complete the task. Both Ramu and Somu eagerly accepted the challenge, confident in their respective methods to deliver the requested royal order. Ramu immediately locked himself in his dark shop, determined to work 20 hours a day to finish the huge order. He cut fabric frantically, his hands shaking from extreme exhaustion as the pile of unfinished work grew taller and taller. His eyes were bloodshot, and his mind was so foggy that he began making serious mistakes in his measurements. Meanwhile, Somu sat down with his apprentice to carefully plan the entire production schedule day by day before starting. They set up an assembly line system where the apprentice cut the fabric, and Somu focused entirely on sewing. Using his modern sewing machine and layered cutting technique, Somu completed his share of garments quickly and with great ease. By the end of the first week, Somu was already halfway finished, while Ramu was falling dangerously behind schedule. Ramu became increasingly desperate, drinking strong tea to stay awake, but his tired body was rapidly reaching its breaking point. He accidentally ruined several expensive silk fabrics because his shaking hands could no longer guide the needle with precision. Somu, on the other hand, finished his entire batch 3 days early, leaving plenty of time to inspect every stitch. He used those extra days to rest and ensure that every single garment met the extremely high royal quality standards. On the final day of the deadline, the wealthy royal merchant returned to the village to inspect the finished garments. He first visited Ramu's messy shop and was deeply disappointed to find only half of the garments were actually completed. Even worse, the completed clothes had uneven seams, loose threads, and visible stains from Ramu's bleeding and injured fingers. The angry merchant immediately canceled Ramu's contract, refusing to pay him a single coin for his low-quality work. Ramu collapsed onto his dusty floor, completely heartbroken and physically ruined, realizing all his painful effort had been in vain. The merchant then visited Somu's clean workshop and was absolutely delighted by the organized display of beautiful royal garments. Every single piece of clothing was perfectly stitched, clean, and arranged neatly by size and color for easy inspection. The merchant happily paid Somu the agreed gold coins and offered him an exclusive long-term contract with the royal palace. Instead of celebrating his massive victory alone, Somu walked over to Ramu's shop, carrying a warm meal and some medicine. He sat beside his weeping friend and gently offered to partner with him, sharing his modern tools and efficient methods. Somu said a hard-working farmer with a dull scythe harvests far less than one who takes time to sharpen his tools. Ramu finally understood that success is not about working yourself to death, but about working smarter with the right strategy. Together, they transformed the shop into a highly prosperous business, proving that collaboration and smart planning always beat raw struggle. We hope this story inspires you to evaluate your own daily habits and begin sharpening your tools for true success. Thank you for watching Gentle Mind Shift. Please subscribe for more inspiring stories to help transform your mindset and life.